Good afternoon YouTube and welcome back to the channel. Today you join me on episode 6 of Project S2000, or as she's rightly known now as Shed 2K. So I'm pleased to advise you guys the car is ready to go for MOT. Now it's been long overdue, and for those that are new to the build, like I say, this is episode 6 now. It's not been the best adventure, I don't think, for the channel, especially compared to the M3s, but it's certainly been something that's kept me busy through lockdown. The build is never going to be a pristine one. I've had people comment saying they love the car, should really address all the other issues, strip it right down, get the rust fixed, but for those that followed from episode 1, I wanted to have a year's worth of fun out of it and then go from there and potentially take the running gear, engine gearbox, put it in something crazy like a Westfield. That'd be awesome fun with a power to weight ratio. But like I say, if I can get a year blasting around in it and have some fun, it'll have done everything I wanted it to do. So the first thing I did since the last video was replace the mirror. Now unfortunately the plastic shell had been damaged on the one I had on the car. Thankfully previous owner gave me a spare one, but it was in silver. So I thought, do I paint them matte black, satin black, just something nice and quick and easy so that they match. So I've just painted them matte black, but to do that you have to take all the door card off. Man, like nothing is ever straightforward. Trying to get your hands up into the mirror bolts, for those that have done it, not a fun job, but got there in the end. And while I was there I thought, you know what, never going to have a radio in a car, might as well remove all the speakers, all the head unit. I've still left the loom in place. I couldn't be dealing with taking the dash apart, but as I said, the plan is just to get it as light as possible without spending a fortune. Now something that I had toyed with doing was removing the side windows. Now I spoke to my good friend Matt, he was like, no, keep it. I thought, you know what, I don't need them, it's got no roof. It is just a blaster toy, so I'm going to get rid of them. And much to my delight, 8 kilos per piece of glass. Well, according to my little travel scales anyway. I can't believe how heavy they were. So with all the regulators as well, all the motors, it's going to be looking at least 10 kilos per side. So another 20 kilos drops out of the S2000. And like I said, because I've got no roof, the only thing I'm going to keep is the windscreen. If I do go for a blast in it, I'll probably have a crash helmet on anyway, just to deal with the wind noise. Another thing I had to buy, we've had quite a lot of rain in the UK, and that little hood cover that I had originally was starting to let some water in. So I thought, you know what, if I get an all seasons cover, it's going to make sure the car stays completely dry, especially with this wet weather. So now it covers all the wheels, the discs, so I haven't got to worry about any corrosion when it's not being driven. And to be honest with you, the new Halfords all season cover that I fitted on there, I think that size was a small. I could have probably gone extra small because there's plenty of room for it covering the car now. So like I say, when I'm not using it, just make sure that it's not going to get soaking wet on that interior. Something that I'd had to do from the beginning, for those that remember the intro video, was the brake discs and pads. Man, the rears were in an absolutely shocking state. When I actually took the calipers apart to strip them down, there was absolutely no material left on the rear driver's side brake caliper. So fortunately, all the pistons were moving fine. It was literally just the rear sliders that had all seized up. So I bought a kit, restored them all, put the new sliders in, put the new boots in, painted all the calipers silver, and you know what, I'm really chuffed with how it came out. Now brake discs and pad wise, I just went with a company called M-Tech. They're not regarded as particularly great, I don't believe. They'll do the job. Not advised to use their pads, which I think they included a Mintec set in the kit I've got for track use, but for road use, should be fine. Like I say, I'm not planning to set lap records in it, I'm not planning to do a lot of miles at all, but I knew I had to replace the standard ones, and my worry is I didn't want to go big on the budget spending if the body was going to be no good and it's not going to pass the MOT. So yeah, went with brand new discs and pads all round. Like I say, rebuilt the caliper sliders because the rear ones were completely seized, which I'll overlay a clip now from the garage. So with the caliper on the rear removed from the carrier, you can see that this slider works okay. It's a little bit stiff, but the boot's intact, whereas this one, absolutely nothing. So a big problem for the braking system. Reduces performance, will reduce power obviously, and increase fuel economy. And you can also notice poorer handling, because if you've got a brake garabin, it can make it for somewhat of an interesting setup with the rears binding while you're driving. So certainly worth not leaving, and glad I've removed it all to get it rectified, but it was something I was aware of from the drive back. Next, it was the oil and filter service. Now, Lewis, the previous owner, had kept on top of this, as when we did the valve adjustments, when I took the rocker cover off, I was delighted to see a golden engine in there. So no wearing on any of the cam lobes. All the valve adjustment was within tolerance, and it looks pristine in there. So I kept with that theme, went with Castrol, I think it was 5W40, and a genuine Honda filter on there. Ended up buying 8 litres because it used just over 5. Left me with a couple of litres spare if I ever have to top it up. Not that I think it uses oil, but it's VTEC, they rev really high. I have heard and experienced from my EP3 that they did like to drink a little bit when on the red line. So a little bit of spare oil, hopefully keep it nice and protected, like I say, for the next year. On to the big one, the Bimarco Cobra 3 seat that I fitted. So those that again watch the intro video, watch the review I did on Matt's, I just cannot stand the driving position. It's high, it's not very supportive. Thankfully, the driver position in the car, because you're quite enclosed, you can prop yourself up against things, but it's not ideal, especially when pressing on. And for me, I really wanted to get that seat height a good 20-30 mil lower, and pleased to confirm I have done it. Now, again, it wasn't something that I was sure how I was going to do, because I'd seen that you could buy side mount kits that use the standard runner, but most people said it doesn't really drop the height a lot, so I was like, well, that's not going to work. And in the end, I took the standard seat runner, and it had the, I would call it like the adapters, which take the runners and make them suit the S2000 floor. And it turned out that I could actually grind the tab off, remove those, and fit them to the side mounts I had, and much to my delight, it bolted in exactly the right seating position for me. So it enabled me to go right to the floor using the original bolt pattern, so I didn't have to drill the floor or plate the floor or weld anything in there. The only thing I had to do was, where the side mounts were in the seat and the seat was slightly narrower, I just had to space it in. So I will eventually get some turn spacers made for it, but for the trial purpose of getting it to MOT, absolutely perfect. And then I thought to myself, well, I'll buy the seat. If it doesn't work out with the S2000, I'll keep it as a spare for the Clio, because those that followed the Clio 172 Cup build, I put wraparounds in it, which are a bit of a chore every day. They're also not allowed around the Nürburgring, so I thought, you know what, I'll just keep it if it doesn't get used in the S2000. But pleased to confirm it does fit, and it feels wonderful. Nice seating position in the car, pedals feel great. I've now got space between my legs and the steering wheel, so really looking forward to seeing how that drives on the road. Simple one, brand new set of wiper blades, just some Bosch Aero twin things, I think they were off eBay. Also painted up the arms because they were all flaking, so it looks a bit more presentable. Again, something I need to do for the MOT. And something I have just remembered, I haven't actually checked the washer jets work yet, so it's been laid up for a while, so I better check that before we get in for MOT. Finally finished the airbox. So as those saw in the previous videos, I fitted like a knacker duct onto the bonnet, nice cold air feed onto the airbox. But obviously the standard airbox is a sealed unit. So I cut the top open, had a few attempts at making different solutions, and I'm finally pleased to confirm that version 3 sits tight around the bonnet. It looks pretty factory, to be honest with you, or at least I think it does. It's quite clean, it doesn't look ghetto, and you've got no heat soak, especially with that cold air feed pulling from the bonnet. So there was something I was going to try and work out with running a flexible ducting from the front of the airbox down to the lower grille, but to be honest with you, I think once you're going above 10-15 mile an hour, that feed on the top of the bonnet is going to provide ample cool air, especially as the factory setup's pretty good anyway. The final thing to add to that, obviously, you can see the air filter just looking from the car from the outside. So the intake noise now, should be able to hear that VTEC scream louder than any other kit on the market, obviously unless you went throttle body. So super excited to see how that sounds when the pedal's to the metal. The only final thing I'm waiting on now before getting in for MOT are a set of number plates. So I've had to use a motorcycle rear number plate because of it being a JDM car, the bumper recess is slightly different to the UK model. And I've got a stick-on number plate for the front, which I'm not sure if I'm going to use yet, or mount a plastic plate to it, because I haven't got the plinth and the way the bumper's shaped. The plastic plate doesn't sit particularly well, if I'm honest, so I'm undecided on that. I have got one of these stick-on ones, but I think by the time I've heated it up, bent it around, it's going to be full of air bubbles. Another thing I thought about was putting it at the top of the passenger windscreen, just sticking it on there. I don't know, a few options to play with on that, but pleased to confirm, gave it a quick clean up today, and obviously, as whenever I clean something, it started raining, so you can see in the intro clips a few spots of rain landing on it, but really happy with how it's come out. It's looking really smart now, or at least I think so. Really presentable, especially compared to how it looked when we picked it up. Everyone that saw it when I drove it back was like, what a shed. Whereas now, I've had a lot of compliments on the car. I'm really happy with how it looks. Just fingers crossed everything goes okay with MOT. So we are now at the end of July, all going to plan. I mean, we've got a lot on with the E92 and the E46 M3 that is probably going to sidetrack it a little bit, but I'd like to think early to mid-August we'll be going for MOT. If it passes MOT, it's then on to get geoed, so I need to work out, am I just going to go local, or do we go and see NAD UK, who did the E46 M3? Now, I'd love to go and see NAD again, but even he said to me, if they're old bushes, it's going to need replacing. So I'm tempted just to run it into my local tyre centre, get an alignment print out, see how bad it looks, again, if it passes MOT, and if they can get it near enough, great. If not, it's going to have to obviously be all pulley bushed. But that's a problem to cross once we've confirmed how the MOT goes, which, yeah, might not be great, because like I say, she is old, she has got a lot of rust that I've cut out of it, I've treated it now, I've put new discs and pads on there, so everything is crossed that it goes okay. But like I say, in the next video, hopefully we won't be recording in the office anymore, she'll actually be out on the road again. Until next time guys, thanks for watching, make sure you like and subscribe.